This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
And that foul line has been a dilemma. Although made the two big ones the other night. National championship is in the balance. 13 seconds left. Florida leads it by 2. Uzan gonna go. Uzan, give it up. Cryer, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, short. He walked, he can't touch it. He can't. 1 second, and it's over. Florida is back on top of the college basketball world. Championship madness. It's a great day to be a Gator.
Elation for Florida, devastation for Houston as we welcome you into Money Moves on a Tuesday. Kevin Cougars there, Westwood 1 on the call. Hell of a game with the Gators coming out last night, 65-63 to win and cover despite only leading in the game for a cumulative minute and 3 seconds. He's Matt Brown. I'm Stormy Buonanthony. What a game last night in San Antonio, Matt.
Absolutely fantastic. Up and down, not only from the product on the court, but also just for you and I. I know kind of bittersweet for you, but still, you do get a future home. I get a future home. It played out for us where we said, hey, listen, one of these two teams gets down 6 or 7 points, probably going to be getting a live bet on that team because this is a game of runs. We've seen both of these teams be able to do it. Sure enough, it plays out exactly like that. Sometimes a handicap actually just manifests, and it's beautiful. It's like a symphony just playing out, and that's exactly what happened there with that one. But at the end of the day, two very, very deserving teams. If we leave with Houston winning as opposed to Florida winning, we say they're the best team in the country. And it's just, they're kind of like 1A, 1B, really, whenever you look at how that game played out.
In a battle of 2 1 seeds, it delivered in every way that we hoped it would be. And you're right. I think that the handicap and everything we discussed yesterday came to fruition in that we didn't have like a very strong opinion on the game itself. We thought that the line was correct. This would be a 1 or 2 possession game down to the wire. That's how it ends up. I hope that you guys did live bet it because as Matt referenced, I know I got a Florida plus 8.5 at one point when they were down as many as 12. And here's the thing. Walter Clayton Jr. was 0 from the floor in the first half. You knew at some point he had to wake up to an extent. I do want to say we were also right on Alex Condon. We said today's the day. If you're going to bet him. He gets 12 points to cash the over, 8.5 points on his prop as well. But for a Florida team that didn't have their best player performing well at all in the first half, and knowing the success that they've had in the second half throughout the course of this tournament. They did it against Texas Tech. They did it against Auburn. They very well should have lost to UConn, but the way they performed in clutch time in the second half came to fruition again for them. And for as happy as we are cashing our futures last night, nobody at this network is happier than Mitch Moss, host of Follow the Money. I mean, congratulations, Mitch, on everything. I'm sure if you've been listening to the network, you know about the free roll at the blackjack tournament here that Derek Stevens and Mike Palm put together. Mitch ends up cashing a ticket that puts out, I want to say it was $105,000. He did hedge.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, whatever. If you made out with 75, I mean, it's a free roll. I mean, who cares?
But
it's amazing.
He bet Florida as well. He loved Florida. He has been talking about this team a ton. We obviously had futures on Florida as well, but for him to not only win the Florida futures that he put in his account on his own, in addition to this mega free roll, like kudos, Mitch, congrats to you. Awesome thing to be a part of, and the Gators get it done for you.
If we did not show the final score and only showed Walter Clayton Jr.'s line, I think everybody thinks Houston probably won this by 5 or 6 points or something. And honestly, it is it shows you the depth of this Florida team. It also shows you that even though he played so incredibly bad for the vast majority of the game, baller's ball, he came out, he would not quit shooting. He would not quit taking it to the rack. And the 11 that he did score were incredibly important 11 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was, dude is sitting there. They flashed the thing up on the screen. Last game, 34 points. Tonight, 0. And you're just going, they got no shot. They got no chance in this thing. And then those 11 points that he did score in the second half were maybe the most important 11 points in the game.
And I know because of how the first half went, there were some people that were kind of up in arms about him winning most outstanding player, which, by the way, does cash minus 105 yesterday. And we talked about if Florida wins, he's probably going to be the guy. I'll say a lot of voters, even though this is supposed to be just a Final Four award, a lot of voters do take into account the entirety of work in the tournament. He is the reason they won so many of these games. And to your point, what he did in the second half ended up being critical to the result here.
And it wasn't like he was like a non-factor. He did have 5 boards. He had 7 assists. He had a block. He had a steal. So there was at least contributions along the way, even though the scoring didn't come until very, very late. And that's what we kind of talked about yesterday with this handicap, saying even if he goes 12 points, but he has 10 assists, like he's going to win no matter what. And it kind of played out like that. 11 points, 5 boards, 7 assists with a block and a steal. He was going to win it. It's just all there is to it.
And obviously you want to give the flowers to Florida for getting it done and winning. But let's talk about the Houston side of this, especially at the end of the game, because the team that could do no wrong in clutch time on Saturday against Duke could do nothing right in the final minutes of this one last night. Cougars didn't get off a single shot in the final minute and 20 seconds, had 4 turnovers on their last 4 possessions. Florida, as I mentioned off the top, only led this game for a minute and 3 seconds and never had a 2-possession advantage in this one. Here's Houston Cougars head coach Kelvin Sampson on the way this thing played out at the end.
That foul line has been a dilemma. Although made the 2 big ones.
We didn't score it well enough to win. We scored it well enough to be in a position to win. But it comes down to those at the end. You got to get a shot. That's you got to do better than that.
He also called it, quote, incomprehensible. They couldn't get a shot off in their last 2 possessions. And I agree. And I feel for the kid at the end of the game, especially because, I mean, quite frankly, you wish that you could have the ball in LJ Cryer's hands in that spot. I understand him passing it off, but just a brutal position to be in. The double dribble, he knows he can't touch it. What do you do? And chaos ensues. They don't get a shot in that situation is brutal. Don't
get a shot off, and also you go back, and a thing that we talked about that was such a key for this team all season long, they didn't shoot the 3 well. You know, it was like we said, hey, this team doesn't shoot a ton of threes, but they shoot it exceptionally well. You look down, they shoot 24% from 3, where this, like I said, there was 3 different starters on this team that shot over 40%. We had another guy right under 40%. And then as a team, you go 24% also. Doesn't help that you left some out there at the free throw line as well. 9 of 14 for 64% at the free throw line for this Houston team. And so you want to like nitpick, but really it was the thing that worked all year long. Just didn't get home here for them in this one. And, you know, it's a 2-point loss for a team that I know is going to look back on this and say, man, 2 more of those threes fall, right? 2 more of those threes fall, and here we are, and we're going to be cutting down the nets.
Fitting also in a tournament that was all chalk, that chalk prevails one final time. Again, Florida covering that 1.5 pick 'em, whatever number ultimately settled on 65-63. The final there total stays well under. That first half under also came through, but albeit it was a little dicey there for a moment. But for Florida, this according to Evan Abrams, Florida ends the season with a 29-11 ATS mark, 72.4% of games they're covering, and best win percentage ATS for a national champion in the last 30 years. And for their head coach, Todd Golden, who's 0-2 in the tournament coming into this one, gets his first win in the tournament, goes all the way through to win it all. Pretty impressive stuff here. He's also the youngest head coach to win a national championship since Jim Valvano in 1983, coincidentally also beating Houston that year.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I look at this, and you and I think if we're just, you know, again, if we're just being completely transparent here, had Florida coming into the tournament, but then as the tournament played out, and certainly you saw how dominant Duke was and how Cooper Flagg was playing and all that, like, I thought Duke was the best team, you know, and so I was not incredibly confident with Florida heading into even the championship game because it looked like they were a little bit vulnerable. I felt with the defense that Houston has, if they fell behind too far, that maybe it'd be too hard to come back on. And you know, again, that proved me wrong in that for sure, and the grit and everything. Obviously, a super well coached team as well. I mean, both teams were well coached, but I mean Florida as well. It was just an awesome game for sure.
I think if you had Houston, that's the hardest takeaway. Is you think you get up 12 in the second half. This is the type of style that your team is built for. Okay, slow it down. Just play hard defense the rest of the way. Don't let this lead up. And unfortunately, obviously, it doesn't come through for them. But we will touch on this game plenty more a little bit later on in the show. You mentioned it is bittersweet for me. We will tell you why that is, despite me cashing a Florida future. But for now, as we wrap up this segment, we got to get you set for everything else that is to come here on Money Moves. So producer Brian Ortega, let's fire up the rundown, please.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
I guess, Matt, we can get number one out of the way in our top 5 items today. Florida is the 2025
Don't know if
national
you guys know or
champions.
not for the last 8 minutes or 9 minutes. Yeah, there
Interesting.
you go.
So let's skip ahead to number 2 from one major event to another. It's Masters Week at Augusta National. We'll get into some expanded markets that are available and, of course, our picks for who will walk away with the green jacket. Plus, with tonight being the annual Champions Dinner, we will give what our menus would be if we were champs.
Yeah, I mean, I added a little spice to mine, a little flair to mine.
I saw yours, and I was like, that is Matt Brown through and through.
A little flair to that.
Big fan. We also have plenty of games to get to in the MLB, NHL, NBA for this Tuesday slate. 10-game slates in the association and hockey, and it's a day for the aces on the hill in Major League Baseball. We got Scooble, Skeens, Crochet, Chris Sale, a bunch of studs on their respective hills.
Yeah, it's going. Listen, this is one of those days that we get, in the cycle where when you look up and down this baseball card today, you're like, oh, I can flip on 3 different televisions and I'm going to have an ace on. So again, if you're a baseball nut, it's a really, really good day.
And we will get into plenty of that with Adam Burke, VSiN.com managing editor. He's going to join us for the final half hour of the program, where we'll also dole out our locked-in best bets for the evening. And the latest around the NFL draft, it's lying season, Matt, and fresh mock drafts are dropping every day. So kind of how to read the tea leaves and decide what's fact from fiction a little bit.
Yeah, we put I've taken a bunch of positions, I'll put it that way. I have positions. Now, are they going to play out or not? I have to see, but I have positions.
Well, if some of those numbers are available, I'm sure our audience would like to tell you, and I know your girl to your right would like to as well. On that note, we're going to take our first time out of the day, but we are just getting started here on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves. Keep it locked right here. Coming up next, we will begin that Masters preview at Augusta National. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hello, friends. It's a tradition unlike any other, us acting like a fool as we are dressed up and ready and prepared for Masters Week at Augusta National. Yes. Our good friend Matt Brown here went to the Masters last year and has brought us all of this swag
look
for
at
the
this.
week.
We've got our little polo shirts, which, by the way, if you ever do make it out to the Masters, size down by like 2 sizes.
Oh, really?
Oh my! Everything is made for gigantor human beings. So like, I got a bunch of stuff that I never wear because it doesn't fit. I honestly have gotten to the point where I've considered going to like a tailor and getting them to try to remake these polos and stuff.
It's almost like you should have eaten more of the pimento and barbecue sandwiches to fill out the shirt properly.
It would take all of the pimento cheese and stuff or whatever to fill out these shirts. I mean, they are made for Sasquatches for sure. Like, I mean, it is like unreal. But, fun time nonetheless.
Another tradition unlike any other that I couldn't let the turtleneck go as I did my quick change.
It's okay. Everyone gets it.
I've got a thing going. So I'm very excited to get into the Masters a little bit here, because obviously, even for people that aren't your typical golf fans or golf bettors, everybody wants to get involved in this event. It's just like the Super Bowl. Even if you're not a big sports person, you're getting involved in the Super Bowl. You're going to sit down and watch. You're going to have fun. It's the best televised golf event that there is out there. And I thought this was kind of funny, especially coming off of the open of the show where we're talking about the national championship, where chalk prevails in the men's and women's tournament with Florida and UConn coming through. I saw this tweet immediately following the game last night. Chiefs-Eagles played for the Super Bowl. Ohio State wins the college football national championship. Dodgers win the World Series. Celtics win the NBA title. NHL Florida Panthers come through. Last year's master Scotty Scheffler gets the job done. Do we get chalk again in Augusta, since everything else is coming up chalk this calendar year?
Unfortunately, again, my numbers, I'm a very, very big numbers and statistics guy. And man, it is very hard to say that Scotty and Rory are not going to be right there at the end with the way that they're playing right now. I know Scotty hasn't won so far this year, but he is trending in the right direction. Rory's already won twice. Rory is playing the best he's played in a decade. He is getting a field of dudes that all kind of have warts at the top of the leaderboard as it is, or odds board, I should say. Anyway, the only confusing part about this from a handicap perspective is just being such a numbers guy. I don't have the data on the live guys, right? So like there's no strokes gain data for us to really go in and look at like we have with these other tour players. And so it's the feel. You got to go with the vibes, on the John Rahms and the Bryson DeChambos and Brooks Koepkas of the world out there, because we don't have the thing where I can literally point and say, okay, I can show you why I like Rory, or show you why I like Scotty, or, one of the other guys we'll talk about like Sepp Strali. I'll show you why I like him. Look at this, and this, and this, and how he's doing this. I mean, I can like Bryson. Your YouTube page is great. You've been doing really good with that. You're a star there. But outside of that, there's just not much to draw from.
For the live guys, I think for them and for anyone really, I'm curious how much experience at Augusta matters for you. Like that familiarity with the course. How much does that come into play?
Yeah, for sure. I mean the hot live guy that I think that isn't quite as pedigreed when it comes to all of this stuff that everyone's talking about is Joaquin Niemann. He's the one that I think everybody is looking at. He's won a bunch over on live. He has played very consistently over on live. He was one of the dudes that when he was on the PGA Tour, I was actually pretty excited about as being kind of one of those next up-and-coming guys that I thought was going to be able to compete on a week-in, week-out basis. So he's kind of the only one that if you wanted to go in and – because, we've seen the success from Rahm, obviously, having won the Green Jag. We know that Brooks is a big game hunter in all of these, in all these types of tournaments. Bryson, of course, has been right there, a major champion as well. So I'm not so much worried about those dudes, but, you don't really have it from a Joaquin Niemann. But let me tell you, if you're talking about trending, right, certainly trending in the right direction.
Something that is unique about the Masters, and we brushed on this briefly yesterday, is just how many markets are available. Yes, you can bet outrights in kind of the standard derivative, top 5, top 10, top 20s, but you have top senior, top American, USA versus the field, top Brit, Canadian, top live golfer, amateur, top debutante. There's tournament groups, guys to make or miss the cut. Will there be a wire-to-wire winner, hole-in-one? Like, the list goes on and on about what is available in order to bet on. Are there any of these markets that you think have more advantages than others that you do tend to lean to?
Yeah, I love these markets. And again, if you're just swooping in, you're going to bet one golf tournament all year long and you're going to be out of here, I get it. You're just going to sprinkle some outrights and move on or whatever. But if you think that, I might bet golf, maybe all the majors and maybe a couple of the big tournaments over the course of this season, well, you want to make sure that you keep your bankroll healthy for that. And that's where these alternative markets come in. You talk about not only just betting outrights, but betting the placement markets, betting top Englishman, top Asian, top whatever it might be. All of these different markets are how you make sure that it's not because remember, guys, I say this every single time on Long Shot. One person wins a golf tournament, like one. So like if you don't pick the one person that wins and all you did was play outrights, well, your ROI is going to be 0, right? But like you can go in. And if you really, really like a guy, you can back up your outright with a top 5 or a top 10 or play him in a head-to-head against somebody that you don't really like near as much, And so these are all things that you definitely want to incorporate into your betting. For me, you go over in top Asian golfer for me is one of those where I understand that Hideki is plus 140 and actually not coming in the greatest of form, but he's like one of the handful of dudes that I would actually trust. Even though he's not coming in the greatest of form, like Tom Kim is playing very bad. Sung Jae has not played well this whole year. Sung Jae hadn't played well in a calendar year, it seems like, almost. Then you look at these other guys that are just unproven, Benny On, Kevin Yu, all these guys. So, you get the plus 140, and I understand that that's not a super sexy number whenever we talk about golf betting, because everyone likes to show their 55-1 ticket or their 45-1. But Stormy, think about this. Like, what if you could bet a football game and just it's a team that you like and you got plus 140? You'd be jumping up and down. We bet plus 140s in baseball all the time. It's great, In golf, for whatever reason, we look at it like it's some sort of bad thing. But, a plus 140 on a guy that's proven, who's been there and can certainly step it up in these major tournaments. I really like Hideki in that Asian market.
That's why something that at least I personally have been betting, and I know obviously you are our golf expert. I am. When it comes to Major League Baseball and golf, I'm what we call a dabbler. I just jump in for fun, but I want to keep tabs on things, so I bet pretty much every week to have something. And I've really enjoyed betting top 20s. And there are a handful of guys that I've been targeting in top 20s and top 10s. And I am curious because the value similarly, like Shane Lowry, for example, top 20 is plus 120. Yeah. And I've really liked Shane Lowry. And I think there are some things that he does really well that can fit this course, and good form. Last 4 starts, tied for 11, solo 7th, tied for 20, tied for 8th, near misses at Pebble Beach and Bay Hill. And I'm thinking, okay, I feel like it's very reasonable for him to be a top 20 here at a plus 120. 120 price. Why not jump in? And so there are a handful of guys like that I look at. First of all, do you hate Shane Lowry? How do you feel about that pick?
Okay, let's go ahead and we'll peel the curtain back. Like I said, so the deal is I like Scotty and Rory so much, and then there's a giant gap to the next people that I actually like, and the first person that fits the bill is actually Shane Lowry. I have him in the account as an outright, but also in a placement market stuff. I'm going to be looking today as these head-to-heads start to populate.
I feel so smart right now.
I'm going to take him on. I'm going to use Shane Lowry and take on some guys this week, I think, in the head-to-head market. If you look at what we value as we head into Augusta, he possesses and checks a lot of the boxes as we head in. And so, like, Shane Lowry for me is someone I'm super, super high on. And it's weird when you look at the lines, right? And it's like Scotty sitting at 4-1 and Rory at 6.5, 7-ish, something like that. And then to me, I don't want any part of Rahm, Morikawa, Xander, Bryson, Ludwig, Justin Thomas. Like, these are all guys in the teens and 20s order. Like, it literally goes all the way down to Shane Lowry at 45 before my card starts.
Okay,
right?
So you're saying I should add an outright too, is what you're saying, instead of just the top 20.
I like Shane Lowry a lot this week.
All right.
You know, again, a dude that I think is not going to be intimidated if he gets in a final pairing with a Scotty Scheffler or something like that. You know, like it's
former major champion.
Yeah, that's the other thing you got to think about too, right? It's just what is the win equity on a lot of these dudes? If they're in a final pairing on a Sunday at Augusta, who's going to wet their pants and who's not? You know, and like Shane Lowry's not. But I think some of these other guys, they're going up against the best in the world on a Sunday at Augusta. They could wilt under the pressure for sure.
Again, as we referenced a couple times here, top of the board, low number. Scotty Scheffler, defending champ, 4-1. Our guy Rory McIlroy, who is in search still of the career Grand Slam, hasn't won a major in 11 years now, more than a decade. 2014, the last time that he won. Can he get it done? Plus 650, the price there. And Shane Lowry, who we're discussing, sitting at 45-1. We will discuss more of our bets on the Masters coming up a little bit later. Also, a good reminder that the Long Shots crew will be doing a live edition from here in the studio immediately following our show on YouTube for that audience. So you, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin, all going to be in here breaking down all of the variety of angles to bet the Masters. And also, I feel like that's a good time to reinforce with people, there are write-ups on the Masters that are going to be on vsin.com for not only the Masters, but all of these major events. We are getting closer to the NHL and NBA postseasons. Articles daily previewing the postseason, daily games that are on deck, everything right now. We've got a summer special at vsin.com. You get everything through August 1st for just $59. vsin.com/subscribe is how you can come join us. But if you want all that information, you don't want to be limited by the article limits, this is the best way to do it. Again, vsin.com/subscribe. We will be right back here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. He's Matt Brown. I'm Stormy Buonanthony. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Time to get into a little Major League Baseball. We mentioned off the top of the show, if you haven't looked at the slate of games today, some awesome pitchers out there on display today. Should be fun.
Absolutely fantastic one that is going to be going here in about 45 minutes, where you see Tarek Skubal going for the Tigers find themselves as a big favorite over the Yankees, which we will not see very often throughout the course of the season. However, Yankees going with Carlos Carrasco, who they picked up off the trash heap, and so he is sitting there as a plus 136 dog there in that one. The 7.5 total is a little bit interesting to me. However, I can't pull the trigger on the under here, Stormy, because of the fact that Carlos Carrasco has had so many blow-ups over the course of his career and so many terrible pitching performances. I think the Tigers might be able to get close to this number on their own. And then even if Skubal only gives up a run or two, then this thing could go over. So at first I thought I was going to lean again towards the under with Skubal coming in and being able to kind of control this Yankees lineup, but can't do it with the gas can that is Carlos Carrasco on the hill.
Well, and quite frankly, Skubal, what he's done so far this season hasn't been great.
Hasn't been great.
I know he's coming off a Cy Young year, but 7 earned runs over 2 starts to this point. It hasn't been awesome. And for a lineup that is great against fastballs and Aaron Judge and like the hard hit rate that we've seen so far from Skubal, I feel like the Yankees bats could potentially, if they don't get to him, they could get to the bullpen. So I feel like there's opportunity for an over. Honestly, I looked at that total and I leaned over.
Yeah, and I was, the other thing I would do is if I was going to play an over, and I know we don't talk about this like in baseball as much as we talk about it with other stuff, but I mean, I'd play like an alt over too, right? Because it seems like if it's going to go bad, it's probably going to go real bad. It's probably going to go very, very poorly. And so sitting at 7.5, if I get a plus money on an 8.5 or even a flat 8 or whatever, however you can manipulate it at the book that you of choice for you, I would do that even because again, I think if Carrasco's going to go off the rails, he's probably going to go off the rails pretty hard. So I would even look at trying to get some plus money on that.
I think I might bet on that. I don't think that you're going to like this, that I did fire on the Yankees plus 136 as well. Just taking a shot with how Skubal has struggled to this point. And maybe if the Yankees bats, I mean, coming off of a loss yesterday, if they bounce back and can get hot, I think there's potential that this Yankees lineup could make a bad start to the season for Skubal worse. So I did that, but I think I'm going to fire on the over as well. So I'm going to have a twofer in this early game today.
It was we got the Tigers home yesterday as dogs, but as big favorites, not a team so it's kind of interesting how in baseball, whenever you bet these certain teams, like there are teams that I will like as dogs, but as big favorites, I will probably never bet, right? And the Tigers certainly fit that bill where there's not enough good hitting on this team to be betting them as big favorites. And so like yesterday, when you're getting that price as a dog, going up against a pitcher that I thought was a little bit vulnerable, sure, I'll come in on the Tigers at that point. But, like, we're sitting here, what was it, minus 160 or something like that? We're like, just no chance. I would be on your side or pass for sure if I was betting this one.
Any thoughts, and because this is an earlier game, this is one of the games that I dug into a little bit more, but I was looking at Aaron Judge's numbers against Tarek Skubal in 14 at-bats, 2 home runs, 4.29 average, 1.42 OPS, maybe hits or total bases. I know anything Aaron Judge and anything regarding some of the stars in the league you're gonna pay a tax. You're paying an Aaron Judge tax on any of those things. But looking at some of those, like over 1.5 total bases, plus 120 on Judge today.
It's never a bad bet to bet Judge on over bases, obviously because of the home run potential, right? I mean, that's the deal. He gets it done with one swing.
Plus 260 on a long ball, by the way.
The one thing that I would just caution at least a little bit on the kind of like the batter versus pitcher type of stuff. Unless you have like a really big sample, it's a little bit noisy. It's a little bit noisy of a stat. And so I don't look too far into that until we start getting up into kind of like that 30-ish, 35-ish, maybe 40 at bats. You kind of need a dude that's been in the division for a while who's against a pitcher who's been in the division for a while. Like you'll be able to catch like batter versus pitcher stats. Specifically, let's talk about the AL East. Like a Kevin Gaudsman, right, who pitches for the Blue Jays and he's been there forever. Like you'll find like large sample sizes against Kevin Gaudsman where you can actually maybe draw at least a little bit of a conclusion. So I just a little bit with the BVP stuff. I would just caution it a tad because on the smaller end it can be a little bit noisy.
Listen, guys, while he said all that stuff about the head-to-head, maybe avoid that, but he still said anytime you can get a plus money price on Judge and considering what he can do is a bad
absolutely.
bet. So,
it can be, you can win the bet in one swing.
What you're telling me is to fire another bet on this game. I think I might have to do it.
Let him find a gap for you. There you go, double, and then there you go. There it is.
Plus, it's good for me. If things don't go well for me in the morning, there's plenty of games left for the rest of the day. We'll be just fine.
Tons of games.
Speaking of which, what's another matchup that stood out to you?
One of the more interesting ones on the day to me is going down. And so the Pirates going up against the Cardinals. And so Skeens is on the hill for the Pirates, which most of the time is going to make them favorites. And again, another one of these teams that is just a light hitting team and just doesn't have a lot of bats up and down that lineup. And he's actually going up against Sonny Gray. So he's not going up against a can on the other side of this. And so as much as I love my Paul Skeens, and I do. I love me some Paul Skeens. The Pirates as favorites over a team that is rolling out a guy that is at least competent on the hill is always going to be somewhat interesting to me. So I actually played a small against Skeens here on the Cardinals because if the Cardinals can just scrape across 2 runs against him and then get to the bullpen, and then this bullpen, not one that I love either. And then Sonny Gray, again, I don't think is a guy that's going to go and get lit up by this Pirates offense. So I played a little bit on the Cardinals. I try to find, you're probably kind of seeing a pattern for me if you guys have been following us the last 3 weeks or so since baseball got going. I try to find dog spots that I think are maybe just a slightly bit mispriced, right?
Well, and I like your angle here, especially because I feel like based on the number, the book is baiting you at a low number on Paul Skeens to bet the Pirates. So I like your approach to this game.
Yeah, it's just, honestly, the Cardinals lineup's actually been pretty good so far. Certainly outperforming what I thought they were going to do so far in this season. So again, if you look at kind of the implied total here in this one as well, like one of those things where you kind of look at the projection system, it's sitting 6.5 on the actual line, but the projection systems do have this kind of more closer to 7.5, so they're thinking the runs are going to come from somewhere. And so I think that means that they think that Skeens might actually, give up a couple of runs here in this one.
The F5 is over under 3 runs. And again, these are like the numbers that we're going to see continuously with these guys on the hill.
Could he go out, because we've already seen it, Stormy, could he go out and just mow down this lineup because every one of his pitches is working? Absolutely. Of course he can. He might end up being one of the better pitchers we've seen come through in the last decade, but you can't just because he's on the hill bet them when they still have to score runs to win a game. They still have to score runs on their side as well. So he can have an awesome outing where he only gives up 2 runs over 6 innings or something like that and strikes out 8 or 9, 10, and they can still end up losing the game.
What do you think about this Braves-Phillies game? Braves a short home favorite, -115 with Chris Sale on the hill versus Zach Wheeler, another good pitching matchup. Like Chris Sale just won the Cy Young for the Braves. Zach Wheeler, 2-time All-Star, has led the league in strikeouts previously. The Phillies available just -105 though against a Braves team that has the worst OPS in baseball right now, who you just said yesterday you are down on, has 1 win this season. Is this a good price on Philly?
This was going to be my other one here. This is in the account, so I did bet the Phillies here in this one as a short.
Let's make it a squad play. I need more.
All right, there we go. It's on the desk here. There we go. We're rolling together. Look, this is Wheeler. Wheeler is like right there with Chris Sale as far as like how he has performed over the last couple of years. And actually, this lineup for the Phillies, if you look at the power ratings out there right now, like they're right there, kind of 1B with what the Dodgers are rolling out. And so for me, for sure, I understand it's on the road, yada yada yada. I mean, whatever, but it is, the pitching matchup is equal. The hitting lineup is far in favor of the Phillies in this one, and we're getting a coin flip on the price. So yeah, this was the other bet in my account today.
Okay. Anything else worth a look to you, or do you want to hear my argument for one more game?
Let's do it. I want to hear yours.
I'm betting the A's and Padres over again.
Okay.
We got there yesterday by the skin of our teeth. We got 9 runs in a run total of 8. It's 8 again today, -130 to the over. Better pitching matchup, and the total hasn't moved, which did scare me to an extent. But I feel like I've been riding the wave 4-0 to the over so far in all of the games in this ballpark, and everything I said yesterday about the lineups and the hitting potential of both of these teams remains the same. So I feel like it's one of those things that I've been betting it all the way, and I might as well just close it out strong and hope for the best. Yeah. I'm not betting the under in it. I know that. So I'm either betting the over or I'm not betting the game.
Yeah, I mean, surprising success so far from this A's squad. And certainly, I mean, you mentioned the ballpark yesterday. That has a play in it as well.
We'll discuss a little bit more later. Edge Boost, everybody, the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring any and all gambling transactions are approved. We got no usage fees, no minimums, cash back rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits. And when you sign up today at edgeboost.bet with our promo code MONEY, deposit $25, Edge Boost going to match that deposit for you. Again, edgeboost.bet. We're wrapping up hour 1 next in the NBA and NHL.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, Stormy, Buonanthony, and Matt Brown with you. And guys, if you haven't checked out Unabated yet, now is the time. They've got expert profitable player prop projections for every game in the NBA real time. They regularly are the first to release breaking news that helps bettors find edges on their respective markets, start sit projection scenarios on how a player's status might impact the projections of their teammates, and so much more, including access to Unabated's expert team through their Discord channels and regular interactive live streams. Head over to unabated.com/vsin, that's /VSIN, for more subscription info.
Yeah, if you are a person that does your own projection systems as well, one of the cool things they'll allow you to do is use their algorithm, but you can upload your own projections that will then kind of spit out like what they look at from a prop angle as well. So it's really a lot of tools over there for the advanced bettor for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great stuff over there. You're actually the first person that introduced me to Unabated and all the different tools. And I mean, even just the lines market where you can see different shops and who has what line available. Speaking of the NBA, handful of interesting games today. We do have a TNT doubleheader with Celtics and Knicks and Warriors and Suns going head to head. Also, the Lakers OKC rematch from Sunday night, where the Thunder, if you recall in that game, were a 9.5 double-digit favorite at some spots. The Lakers end up winning that one by 27. Something tells me that's not going to happen again today. OKC didn't really look awake in that game, a game that was much more important to the Los Angeles Lakers than it was to OKC. How do you feel about tonight?
Yeah, it's so tough for me this time of year. Like, you look at this massive spread on a game where I'm not going to say the Thunder, like motivational factors as we come down to these last little handful of games at the end of the year, it does make you start to kind of question what effort you're going to get from all of these different teams and how long guys are going to play. Is there any motivation whatsoever for any sort of minute restrictions to make sure that these dudes are super healthy going into the playoffs? Like, so that's just, my NBA betting after the All-Star break starts to taper off as it is anyway, because that's when wonky season starts happening. And then certainly as we get down to these last handful of games, like it is a tough handicap for me, especially when you get out to these like massive spreads like this.
Well, so the tonight's spread in OKC, 15.5, total 226. Yeah. Dave McMenamin tweeted this out earlier. The Lakers injury report for today in OKC. Who's going to play? We don't know. So we know Maxi Kleber and Rui Hachimura are out for this one, but for the Lakers, LeBron questionable, Luka questionable. I'm sure this one was really top of mind. Bronny James questionable. Yeah. But Austin Reeves questionable, Gabe Vincent. It's like their whole lineup is questionable coming into this one. So who's actually going to sit? Probably a lot.
And it's kind of one of those things where if you're the Lakers, and I know people hate this, right, from a viewer standpoint and from a fan perspective. However, you're on the road. You're not at home. It's a game you're probably going to lose anyway. So seems like a pretty good spot to just kind of get some people some rest. Get some people the day off, and that's very likely what we're going to get here.
So I mentioned the TNT doubleheader that we have on deck, the first of the two coming in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics getting 1.5 in New York against the Knicks. Knicks on the money line -130. Total there sitting 221.5.
Yeah, this is, if anything, I guess possibly a look at the total in this one. I mean, the Celtics certainly can, points in bunches for sure, can get that going. I think I have, so if I ran like a little rudimentary deal right now, 223 and change. So, I mean, not a ton of value on the over, but like a point and a half, something like that. So it would be a lean to me towards the over, but not a super strong opinion.
Okay. Yeah. And it's another one of those things too, where you're wait and see with the injury report here as well.
That's kind of one of the stay tuned for the shows later in the day today on the network, because I mean, it's very tough when we're sitting here in the morning where like half of every team is questionable, and you're just kind of like, well, I mean, what can we do?
Like, you can try to read the tea leaves, but we're just setting the table for you. We know for the Celtics, Al Horford out with a right knee sprain, Derek White probable with a right big toe sprain. Those are never fun. But all four starters questionable. Again, Kristaps Porzingis, who missed the other day with an illness, still dealing with that. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, like everybody's dealing with something. And when you want these guys to be at peak performance going into the playoffs and going into the tournament, like, this is the opportune time. So spread makes sense here as well.
This is when you, like, if at all possible, right? Like, if someone needs a breather, someone needs some ice on the old ankle or whatever, something like that, this is this is when you get it done.
Meanwhile, Warriors Suns in the second of that doubleheader. Warriors laying 9.5 in Phoenix, total 226.5. This is a game that I feel like we've been talking often about. Every game is important for Golden State right now when it comes to seeding, because that Western Conference is so compact. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns, without Kevin Durant, they were hoping that they could make the play-in tournament, but it doesn't look like that's going to be possible for them anymore.
Lost 6 in a row.
It's been ugly which I'm upset about, okay? Because it seemed like they turned the dial a little bit with KD. They were on a nice little run. They were minus 200 to make the play-in, so I was feeling good about my 4-1 ticket on the Suns to make the play-in. KD goes down, and it has been all downhill from there. So I'm a little bit depressed, but it is what it is, and I don't have an opinion on this spread, but it's a game Golden State obviously needs to win.
I say it's one of those where we don't have to question the motivational factors in this one, right? Which is like Golden State is sitting right on the cusp, right there of the play-in. They are going to give it absolute all-out effort in this one, and if you're the Suns, you're sitting there looking up and you kind of realize your season is over. Yeah. So this is the polar opposite end of questioning motivation. It is one team that is as motivated as possible, and the other team who probably, like you said, is probably pretty depressed, right? Like you're like, oh, you know what? We got this little streak going. I think we're going to get it done. Lose 6 in a row and realize like, it's over.
Are you a believer in the Warriors when we get to the postseason? Since adding Jimmy Butler in February, with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry on the court, they've only had 3 losses in that time.
Yeah, so what it does in that is like at least gives them another option on the offensive side. Like Jimmy isn't necessarily like a take over the game type scorer, but he's obviously bringing the defense every single night and the intensity, but he can go do some scoring. The problem is like Draymond is never going to be a second option, right? Like Draymond is just not a scorer. That is not, if Draymond's taking too many shots, then the Warriors are in trouble, right? And so at least with Jimmy Butler, what we've kind of seen is there are nights where if he needs to go get 22, 23, something like that, he goes and gets 22 or 23, and like that is something they were sorely lacking earlier on. And I mean, listen, if you want to talk about experience and grit and teams that can go out and frustrate you because Draymond's going to sit down there and like when you're not looking, he's going to be like deking you in the crotch and stuff and all these things like that. And like, then Steph's bombing stuff from the logos and they're just going in all night long. I mean, that can if you get hot doing that, right? I mean, like you can make a run for sure. I mean, I would not doubt, especially with the coaching factor as well that goes along with all that. I think it's a team that you certainly at least have to be weary of, but can they take down OKC? Probably not. Yeah, probably not.
A handful of other big spreads today. Spurs Clippers, that one's 12.5. We already mentioned Lakers OKC 15.5. Pacers laying 19 against the Wizards today. Hornets getting 15.5 at home against Memphis. 14-point spread in Bulls Cavs. Like a lot of big spreads coming into today. Are any other games that stood out to you? Otherwise, I've got one thing to mention in hockey.
Yeah, let's get over to the ice. Which game are you looking at?
Kraken at Utah Hockey Club. So this is something.
They're still a team?
This is a bet I've been tailing Jonathan Davis on largely all season, is the Kraken being awful on the second half of back-to-backs. He and I were actually texting about it this morning. They're the worst team in the league in that spot. They've dropped 11 games this year on the second half of back-to-back. And credit, by the way, again, Jonathan, for tracking this stuff throughout the course of the year at vsin.com for our subscribers. He has articles out each and every day. Seattle's also scored 2 or fewer goals in 10 of those 11 games. The team they've faced has covered the puck line in 10 of those 11 games. Big reason why Utah is such an uncharacteristically large favorite in this spot, sitting minus 230. They're even minus 150 on the regulation line, plus 115-ish on the puck line, unless that has changed. I don't see. It doesn't have the number on that graphic, but plus 115 on the puck line on DraftKings right now. Kraken team total under 3.5 is even juiced to minus 310, under 2.5 minus 120. Utah also still technically, mathematically alive in the playoff race, too, after beating the top team in the NHL on Saturday. For anyone who missed it, 4-1 win against the Jets with Connor Hellebuyck in net. So there is reason, I'm sure, not to blindly follow this trend.
We're still alive.
Seattle's been playing well the last couple games. So I understand maybe not wanting to fade them in this spot because they've been playing better, but I think I'm going to join Jonathan Davis on this one and take Utah on the puck line, as they think they still have a chance, even though they don't.
I told Stormy this off air.
They think they do.
Last week. So my Devils, guys, my Devils that I've been talking about all year, that I've been following and watching every single night. The bet that I made was actually the wrong bet. Yeah, it was for them to remember. Yeah, it was to have the most points, I guess, or whatever, and as opposed to actually win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, he bet the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
That didn't go great.
No, that's not. So I guess I'm already dead on that one.
We got to take a quick timeout. When we come back, resetting for hour 2 of the program, the Florida Gators are your national champions, and maybe some markets to approach in the NFL draft.